Oh yeah, I'm rubbing my hands like Birdman. Uh, at first, I was gonna bash this movie because I had heard nothing but negative reviews about it. And I just watched it for the very first time, and boy, I've had a change of heart. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I like this movie ironically because it is bad, but in all the right ways. I'm going to review the Santa Claus 3. A little disclaimer. I'm going to be comparing it to It's a Wonderful Life quite a bit. The story is pretty much It's a Wonderful Life, but with the characters of the Santa Claus movies. With a few additional characters, but I'll get into that. The story starts out as Carol is now a teacher for the elves. She's telling the story of when she gave birth to her and Scott's son. And it's the classic, he's a workaholic because, well, he's Santa, of course, he's a workaholic. He starts going through all this stress and all this stuff starts to go wrong. But it's mainly because of this one character named Jack Frost. I'll get into him in a little bit. But he sabotages the entire factory, all because he wants his own holiday. And get this, it's a classic, somebody wishes something didn't happen. Like, they have all this responsibility, and they wish they didn't have that responsibility, and they never had that responsibility, and the wish is granted, and the world is entirely different. Scott wishes he was never Santa Claus, which Jack Frost, because he's pretty much the villain, sets it up to where everything just goes wrong. Scott gives into the pressure, and he actually says, he's tricked into saying, I wish I was never Santa at all. And it invokes the escape clause, which undoes his time as Santa. In this alternate reality, Scott was never Santa. And remember back in the first one when Charlie was very, reluctant to be around Scott at first? Yeah, that comes back. When Scott tries to go talk to Charlie's just like, why are you here? And then just blows off his dad like he doesn't care. And he has this massive attitude. And it turns out because of that attitude, Laura and Neil end up getting divorced. And every little kid is a massive spoiled brat. Even Lucy, the sweetheart from the second one. Even she's a spoiled little brat. And the connection that she has with Scott in the second one and the beginning of this one, it's wiped away. You actually feel like a massive change. There's a massive change. Please, I want to go back to when this was a thing. But it was all undone because of Jack Frost. When they went back in time to the night that Scott first became Santa Claus, to stop Scott from getting the Santa suit first, Jack Frost smacks him in the face with a shovel. That's for making wild hogs, you asshole! Yeah. And then that's when the hellish reality comes into play. The North Pole is a massive theme park. And instead of the massive delivery thing, every Christmas, pretty much everyone just goes up to the North Pole as a theme park, and they get their presents that way. And they actually pay for their kids to be on the nice list. So yeah, it's a lot of the Santa Claus type of okay, you can't do that, you can't do that. But at the same time, with that Santa Claus logic, you actually understand the urgency. Scott has to undo his undo of him being Santa Claus. And it's a very big deal. And the entire time that him and Lucy were trying to get to Jack Frost's snow globe to undo it, my heart was pounding the entire time. even though I know for a fact what's gonna happen, I was like, I hope they get to it in time. I hope they get to it. I hope they get to it in time. And then everything's set back to normal. And then Scott reveals himself as Santa Claus to his in-laws, and everything just like wraps up perfectly fine. Overall, the story, it's not very good, but I had a lot of laughs. Alright, so Jack Frost is played by Martin Short. The Three Amigos. Huh. Yes, that Martin Short. From The Three Amigos. Now, he's the massive villain of this movie. Let me put it to you like this. As a villain, he has the demonic evil essence of steel and the absolute lameness of Ivan Ooze. And he provides a lot of the most awkward moments in this movie. Like, there was literally one part of the movie when there was a big fire that was just put out, and his massive punchline is, "I'll get a mop." I honestly feel bad because I love Martin Short. But like, this character's on a whole new level of absolute lame and stupid. Not like he's a dumb character. The things he does are absolutely stupid. Like when he meets Lucy, he's just like, you gotta know who I am. You gotta know who I am. And she's like, no. I like how it hurts his ego. But, alright, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. And with Neil, for some reason in this movie, they made him like an aromatherapist now. Like, he literally teaches the elves yoga. And he teaches them how to let go of all that stress from all those years of working. It also turns you into a massive douchebag. And just like, it's like, where the hell did this come from? And weirdly enough, Carol gets along with Neil, Laura, and Lucy. And although I do love when she sees them, she's like, "Yay, more tall people. I was about to go insane." That's one of the things I legit like, that she can get along with Scott's ex-wife. And seeing how nice she is with Lucy, it's the same sort of warmth that I feel when Scott and Lucy are on screen together. So yeah, that's one of the things I really love about the movie. The dynamics between the characters. And like, some people I've talked to about this movie, they tell me like, oh, but if Scott's the ex-husband, why does that affect his ex-wife and her new husband getting divorced? It explains it. Charlie's attitude got to the point where Neil just gave up because Scott was never there for him because of how much of a workaholic he is. So like, you really get the sense of like, oh, if he never became Santa, going back to the first movie, I actually can see that happening. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I can see that happening. I'm so glad that it doesn't happen. I found out that the actor that played Bernard didn't want to be in this one, so they sort of cut him out of the movie. Alright, so what I didn't like is the humor in this movie is kind of off. There's literally a joke when Scott goes to get his in-laws, when they're packing. His mother-in-law literally says, well, it's not like we're going to the North Pole. I'm like, that sounds like something I would write back when I was 12, and I didn't know the first thing about writing dialogue. With my autism and the fact that I was extremely socially impaired, writing dialogue that normal people would say, that sounds like something that I would write back then. And there's certain points where there's, like, the camera is focused on characters. Like, there's literally a moment in the beginning when the in-laws are fighting, and it's just Scott and the Sandman like standing there, and all you hear is the other two characters arguing. You can feel the sense of like, can y'all not do this now? It's so awkward. Those are my only nitpicks. One thing I will say is when Jack Frost is like saying, "Oh, but you get to deliver presents to children. You have a beautiful wife and blah 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 blah. What do I have? You're Martin Short. That's enough. You're an American icon. Plus, you get a happy ending in the end anyway. So zip it." But overall, I like this movie ironically, and I'm actually kind of glad I watched it because this is the very first of my channel. I'm reviewing a movie that I like, but it's pretty bad. And I'm glad I got to start with this one. If you're into like movies that are so bad they're good, that provide laughs even if it's not really intended, I definitely recommend this movie. Even though there's a lot of awkward moments in this movie, honestly, if you just turn your brain off, and yes, it is like It's a Wonderful Life, but you know what? This is one of those times where you can laugh about it because It's a Wonderful Life is a sad movie. This is a funny movie. This movie actually made that sort of storyline funny. And that's not an easy thing to do. I will give it that. So overall, I'm glad I got to see this movie, and I'm glad that I reviewed this movie. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, stay positive and stay awesome, everyone. See ya.